Before the legends faded, before the empires fell, a voice still echoes through the dust of history's hall. We are legends in rhyme, and we have tales to tell of kingdoms built on fire and kingdoms doomed to fall. They ruled the seas, they shook the earth, they made proud Rome afraid. Their generals crossed the mountains where no army dared to go, and yet the world forgot them, every triumph and every blade, as if the sands of Africa just swallowed all they know. What if we told you Rome once begged the gods for aid, against a man who camped outside their gates for 15 years? What if the greatest empire of the ancient world was made by people history buried under centuries of fears? It started with a queen, a ship, a shore of golden sand, a princess fled from Tyre with nothing but her grief and pride. The legend calls her Dido. She outwitted every man and cut an ox hide into strips to claim the land inside. 814 years before the Christian age was born, she built her city on the coast of northern Africa's shore. Carthago Nova, new city, rising bright as any dawn, a harbor full of promise and a people hungry for more. The Phoenicians were her founders, master merchants of the sea. They spoke in purple cloth and cedar wood and molten gold. Their ships crawled every coastline, traded bold and trading free, and Carthage grew from outpost to a story yet untold. By 300 BCE, they stretched from Africa to Spain, Sardinia, Corsica, Sicily. The sea was theirs to keep. No vessel crossed the western Med without their chain. No merchant dared to trade unless Carthage took their tithe to reap. 2 suffets led the state, elected by the people's vote. A senate rich with merchants, generals paid in silver coin. While Rome was still a city-state, still learning how to float, Carthage ran an empire from the Atlas to the Rhone. But then came Rome, and nothing would ever be the same again. His name was Hannibal, the son of Hannibal Barca's blood, who swore before his father at 9 years he'd make Rome pay. He marched from Spain with 90,000 soldiers through the mud and 37 war elephants to face the light of day. 218 years before the birth of Christ, he came, across the Alps in winter where no general dared to try. The snow, the cold, the altitude, the rocks of bitter flame, he lost a third of all his men and kept on marching. Why? Because a promise made in childhood echoes louder than a sword. Because a Barca never breaks the oath that shapes his soul. He crossed the river Rhone, the Alps, and every freezing ford, and brought his war to Italy to make his vengeance whole. And what happened next shook Rome to its very foundations. 216 BCE, the plains of Cannae soaked in red. 8 legions stood against him, 80,000 Roman spears. By evening, 70,000 of the Roman force were dead, the greatest single slaughter of the ancient hemisphere. He wrapped them like a crescent, bent the flanks, and closed the trap, a maneuver still taught today in every army school. The Roman center surged ahead and fell into his gap, and Hannibal proved brilliance was a deadlier rule. The Senate wept. The roads to Rome were empty, full of dread. For 15 years he roamed the boot of Italy unchecked. No walls could stop him, yet he never charged, or so it said. He waited for allies that came too late. His plans were wrecked. Guess what Rome did while Hannibal was waiting? They changed the game entirely. A young Roman general read Hannibal like a favorite book and turned the Carthaginian tactics on their founder's name. Scipio Africanus, 30 years old, all it took, to take the war to Africa and burn Carthage's flame. At Zama, 202 before our era's open page, the elephants stampeded, and the flanks were turned around. Hannibal met genius fighting genius on that stage, and for the first time in his life, his armies kissed the ground. Carthage signed the peace. They gave up Spain and all their fleet. They paid in silver tribute for the next 5 decades long. A lion in a cage, still proud, still burning in the heat, but Rome's old senators already singing one more song. Cato the Elder rose in Rome and ended every speech the same. He hammered it like clockwork till it rang through every hall. Carthage must be destroyed, he said, until the words became a law, a war, a sentence, and a civilization's fall. 149 BCE, Rome came with iron and with fire, 3 years of siege before the walls of Carthage finally broke. Scipio Aemilianus watched the city burn up higher, and 50,000 souls were sold as slaves through ash and smoke. The city burned for 17 days straight, the ancient sources claim. The greatest port of Africa was rubble, ash, and sand. And Rome stood in the silence, with no rival left to name, the only empire standing in the known and charted land. But empires live in memory long after stones have turned to dust. The tactics Hannibal invented echo through the modern age. His double envelopment, refined, revised, as warriors must, still fills the chapters of the military strategist's page. The Carthaginians built the world that Rome then claimed as its own. Their trade routes, harbor systems, merchant laws, and silver mines. A civilization swallowed, but whose seeds were always sown in every port and empire that emerged from ancient times. So when you see the Roman arch, the Mediterranean shore, remember there were others who once held that sea in hand. They rose from nothing, built an empire, shook the ancient core, and fell because one senator could never let them stand. This legend was brought to you by Voices of the Past, by Legends in Rhyme, where history finds its rhyming breath. If Carthage moved you, if this story held you to the last, then like and subscribe, because these tales outlive all death. Drop a comment down below and tell us what you think. Which empire should we cover in the next verse that we write? The world is full of legends, standing right here on the brink, and Legends in Rhyme will bring them back into the light.